Welcome to Madison Junction. Here's Madison Junction Railroad Station, and there are a few passengers awaiting a train that will come by before very long. This is a project that I've been working on for 17 or 18 years, but it really is the culmination of a lifelong fascination with trains, both the real thing and also the models that we make, because we can't always have the real thing in our offices or living rooms or dining rooms. And so I have invented this little village of Madison Junction and deliberately made it appear very much like the town that I was born in, which was Mock Chunk, Pennsylvania, which was in the Lehigh Gap, up in the Pocono Mountains of Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania. And my father was the Presbyterian minister in Mock Chunk until I was 4 years old. On one side of the Lehigh River was the Lehigh Valley Railroad, and on another side was the Jersey Central. And there were hundreds of trains every day that ran through Mock Chunk back in the late 30s and early 40s. The town is surrounded by rough mountains, as is Mock Chunk, in a very deep gorge. And on this railroad, which actually is a combination of New York Central and Pennsylvania railroads, but on this railroad there are 57 freight cars and 28 passenger cars altogether. Right now, a lot of the trains are parked in tunnels inside the mountain, but I'll get over to my control panel and run one of them. Approaches the grade crossing at Madison Junction, and of course it'll blow its whistle. That whistle is inside the locomotive, as is the bell. There's another very long freight beside the mountain, which will come out now. Well, we just had a derailment inside the tunnel for some reason. So let's see what we can do if we can fix that. Here comes a Pennsylvania coal drag. And now it's time to pick up those passengers that we left stranded. Everybody likes to see passenger trains go fast, so I'm going to put that one on a different line, and then we can rev it up. I have to back it onto the other track. Here she goes. That's about a scale 100 miles an hour. Now what we're going to do is to put together a freight train. This is done very much the way that it would be accomplished in a real railroad yard. This Pennsylvania mountain type steam locomotive is going to do the honors. And it will begin by picking up the 4 cars on the number 1 track. And now we throw a switch and it will pick up 4 more cars. We throw another switch and we pick up still 4 more cars. Now we have a 12-car freight train, but there's only one thing missing, and I bet you can figure out what it is. There's no place for the crew to ride, so we have to pick up the caboose, which in the Pennsylvania Railroad was always referred to as the crummy, C-R-U-M-M-I-E. So we have to have a crummy for the crew to ride in. Oh, I think I spilled the coffee. I'm sorry about that. the tables were made out of lumber that I scavenged from those big bins that they put along on the street where people are renovating an apartment and they throw out lots of what looked to me like very good wood. And so I just would go out at 11 o'clock at night and climb into those things and pull out wood and take it home and clean it up. And that's how I built all of this, with my desk right in the middle where it always was. And it has worked out pretty well. To illustrate the lifelong quality of this hobby, at the top of the music cabinet there is my first train. I was born in 1937, but that train was built by Lionel in 1935 for my older brother, who was only a few months old and obviously wanted to have a train. So that got me started. And then the one on top of this other cabinet is 1950. And the diesel locomotive up there on top is a more recent purchase, I think in the 80s, and it is awaiting its turn to go to the shop because right now it doesn't run. But the one that is most prominently on display, except that it has some CDs in front of it, is a train that it was the first train that I bought right after the war in 1946. And I served an awful lot of people with the Baltimore Sun after school to buy the money, to get the money to purchase that train, because it was a very high ticket item in 1946. And it does still run, but I don't run it very often because it's everything about it is pretty old. Some of these buildings I bought during the Second World War. The little cardboard station that says Madison Junction with its little cupola was bought during the Second World War, and several of the other cardboard buildings on the layout are of that era. Most of them, though, are things that I have bought. They're kits that I have bought, and then I have to do the painting and decorating myself. And it is rather time-consuming, but it keeps me off the streets. The vintage is theoretically the early to mid-50s, when the railroads were still running steam locomotives and first-generation diesels. There are a few of the automobiles and trucks that are clearly from a later era, but until I can replace them with more authentic things, at least there's some traffic on the street. So this is my desk. This is where I plan services, plan music, do my correspondence, computer, telephone, voicemail, and right behind me is the controls for the railroad. And a certain amount of conflict exists in my life, balancing my profession and my hobby, but I hope I do a credit to both. Thanks for visiting. It's been fun to be with you.